the Rebel Radio Podcast, and this is Jame. Snooch to the nooch. Go there and do it.
Happy New Year, Matt.
Happy New Year.
This is our first episode of 2023. It's like every year the years go by, and I think, man, we're like, 2000 was cool in 2010, and it's like, we're in the future, baby.
That's right. The future is here.
But I'm also waiting for like in Back to the Future 2, where he goes in the future and he sees Jaws 17, the shark comes out like it's going to fucking bite him.
Yeah, dude.
Where's that 3D at, you know? I mean,
it's not here yet.
I know. It's like, man, so the movies lied to us. They made it sound like, but at least we're not taking the shits and using seashells, you know?
That's right. We're not using seashells, and we're not, having to go underground for a rat burger.
That's right.
If we want a burger.
So, but it is a new year, and it's a new episode of the Rebel Radio Podcast, and we are going to have a good year, man. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to reach 350 episodes. We took a couple weeks off, and I think it was good for me, man. I feel a bit rejuvenated, and I hope you do.
That's right,
too.
Man. Yeah. Every once in a while, you need to take a break, and then come back to it fresh, inspired, and ready to roll, baby.
Well, like last weekend, we didn't do a show for New Year's, and I end up having a little bit of COVID, and I'm fine. It wasn't too bad for me the second time I had it, and so I'm sitting around like Friday and Saturday night, like, fuck, man, we're not doing a show. This sucks, because I couldn't like drink or do anything for New Year's, and I was like, damn, but I want to do a show, but we did do a show, but that's okay. I still don't mind the break either. So now I'm ready to go, and it's going to be fun, man. We've got our April theme month coming up. We've got, we'll probably do some sort of panel or show at Comic Palooza this year again, our 350th episode, when, we'll hit that. We'll hit some milestones. We'll hit some good movies. And, just like when you think you run out of movies, there's still lots we haven't done. And we've got some cool stuff planned this year. Maybe some surprises that people might not expect, and maybe some they do expect. And by all means, man, follow us. We're on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. All the links are up at the website, therebelradio.podcast.com. We will always take suggestions. We've got a Facebook group, which I'm going to try to really start pushing that Facebook group a lot more. Me and Matt both going to post more in it this year and be more interactive with you guys. And if there's a movie you want us to see, then maybe we'll do it. But don't fucking ask us to do Steel Magnolias, because I'm not doing some shit like that.
Yeah. And stuff that we can, actually see, these, not Superman 4 with Nicolas Cage or whatever.
Right.
We would have loved to see that, but there's just no way for us to review something like that.
Superman Lives.
Yeah, Superman Lives.
That would have been crazy to see Nicolas Cage. Man, I often, I'm sure you've seen the pictures online of him in the costume and stuff, and I often wonder, like, just how that would have turned out. Tim Burton wanted to film that in Houston. He wanted Houston. Yes, he wanted Houston to be Metropolis.
Wow.
That was one of his ideas at the time, and it was to film it here because he liked the cityscape, and just bizarre to think how that would have turned out. But no, it's yes. Nicolas Cage. We have some Nicolas Cage stuff in the news today. So bear with us. It's our first episode of the new year. We're kind of remixing things up a little bit. We're not changing the show that you love, and we're not changing anything like that. We're just gonna we'll just tell you got to wait towards the last part of the show for the featured movie from now on. So the featured movie, it will be the main event, so to speak. As we're going to go over everything we've watched lately. We're going to talk some news and some fun stuff. We'll get to the feature film in just a bit. And Matt, I did see a movie while I was on vacation that you talked about our last show, and I took the kids and I went and saw Avatar: The Way of Water.
There we go.
And I enjoyed it quite a bit. If I had one beef with it, we spent an hour in the first film building Pandora in the forest, and let's spend an hour building the water world. And that part of the movie was a little slow. That's probably my only beef with it. It was like, we're going to spend another hour building another world. And it's beautiful, and it's well shot, and the 3D is amazing. And James Cameron pulls eye candy into your eyes like no one else does. But I just felt like, oh my God, this part of the middle part of the movie drug. But and that's why I wonder how it will replay when you rewatch it. Because like in 3D, it's amazing. You're sitting there, you're buying into it. But when you watch that without 3D at home, that middle part of the movie is going to be a little bit like, come on now. But that said, I thoroughly appreciated the story with Jake protecting his family. And I'm not going to spoil anything because I know people still haven't seen it. I'm going to the tech of James Cameron's world continues to be mind blowing. It's funny. I read an interesting statement about how Cameron, who seems to be so anti, there's hidden messages in these Avatar films about the environment, about the use of technology and stuff, right? But Cameron's not preachy about it. He's not pushy about it. But at the same time, he also uses the same tech to make this amazing looking world.
Yeah.
So he kind of contradicts himself, I guess. But he's allowed to do that when you're James Cameron. And but the tech of the film is amazing. I love the use of the mechs and the different tools they use by the humans and stuff. I think it's really cool. The different ships. Just the interesting way they brought back the Colonel was it was different, kind of, he kind of retconned his own story a little bit. Did you notice that at the beginning of the movie? James Cameron was like, how do I get the Colonel back? Oh, I'm just going to kind of retcon things and say that the humans have been working on Avatar projects all these years. Yep. I was like, oh, isn't that convenient? That's mighty convenient, But overall, man, it's a beautiful film. The 3D, it was cool. Taking my kids, Wyatt, I don't think he had seen a movie in 3D before, so he's sitting a couple of seats over, and there was lots of whoas, that's cool. He thought the 3D was really awesome, and so it was appreciated to watch it through his little young eyes and see how amazed he was by some of the looks of the film.
It's a majestic looking film. I mean.
It's well shot. It's the CGI is amazing. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it like it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. I mean, it's pretty fucking flawless, man. The way that he put this film together, it's a nice looking movie.
Very smooth.
Yeah, and the first one is good, and this one is just even maybe better tech wise. It's just so smooth looking. It's well acted. I have to give credit to Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana and Stephen Lang, because their performances, Sigourney Weaver, their performances come through even with the motion capture and the CGI work and stuff. And they do a hell of a good job doing that. Some really great action sequences. I mean, the finale of this film, that last 45 minutes is breathtaking.
You're on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what's going to happen. Very, very tense scene at the end.
Yeah, and just really good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to the third one. Yeah, I guess he's going to introduce fire people in the third one. So hopefully we don't spend another hour establishing fire people.
Yeah, in a desert world or something.
Yeah. What if they do they hinted at a desert world, because at the beginning of this one we see the humans' basis of operations is kind of out in the desert in the middle of nowhere. So that's kind of like the joke I made in the text message the other day. I was like, oh, we're going to get a human world, and stuff. And so we'll see where that leads. But I enjoyed it, man. It's making a lot of money. They were worried it wouldn't break even to make its money back, but it looks like it's well on its way to doing that. $1.5 billion worldwide. It's number one worldwide for 2022. Probably not going to quite reach Top Gun domestically. It may teeter out before then, but still highly successful movie from James Cameron. I think my only beef with Cameron doing Avatar films, honestly, is because it's probably the only kind of films he'll do the rest of his career. We'll never get that True Lie sequel now. We'll probably never get him to do another Terminator film, and that's a bit disappointing because he's such a talented filmmaker. I would have liked to have seen him revisit some of his other franchises, but if he makes 2 or 3 more Avatar films, his legacy is sealed. That's what he's doing. He's making his version of Star Wars, his version of a legacy science fiction franchise that he wants to do, and that's okay.
That makes sense.
Avatar, The Way of Water, is in theaters now, man. Go see it. It's don't wait for Disney Plus. I think this is a movie that you were right, Matt. It was worth seeing in 3D, man. It was the 3D popped. It was really, really beautiful in parts. And how about the flying arm at the screen? That was cool.
Oh yeah. That was cool.
Even Wyatt was like, "Whoa, his arm flew off."
Yep.
So non context spoiler there, but
Yeah.
So that was cool. I know you and me both watched a movie this week too, man. Glass Onion,
Yes.
a Knives Out mystery. I'll let you go first on this one, man. I don't know. I have my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I felt like they definitely beefed up the cast a little bit more. I feel like you had a little bit more notoriety with Norton and I always forget her name, chick from the Skeleton Key.
From what?
The blonde from the Skeleton
Oh, Kate
Key.
Hudson.
Kate Hudson, yeah. And then the girl that's she's up and coming. She's on a Netflix show, and she was in Stranger Things. She has like the love affair going on with Edward Norton, and of course Dave Bautista, who is just kind of dumb in the movie a little bit. And then you've got some of course Daniel Craig comes back, but I felt like it was kind of hard for me to follow a little bit more. I felt like I followed Knives Out, the first one, very well, and I was engaged. I felt like it wasn't trying to be too obscure, and it all came to a head at the end. This one, I feel like it's kind of juggles around a little bit, and you kind of get some intriguing stuff here or there, and then all of a sudden at the end it all comes together, and then it that's the part that's probably the coolest, the ending. All the explosions everywhere, and Edward Norton losing his mind, and all of that. But Craig is great in it, and it's still a fun film to watch, and still enjoyed it. But yeah, that's how I felt about it. I felt like maybe it could have been a little bit more consistent, like the first one was.
Yeah, I agree on a lot of that. Craig is great. The cast overall is great. It starts out wonky. You're absolutely right. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Then there's a twist within the twist in the movie where, like, halfway through, we find out that the one girl, semi-spoilers here, but the one girl is the sister of the other girl, and she's working with Craig. You don't know that until about halfway through. But that's when the movie kind of picks up, when you find that out. You're like, okay, the middle part of the movie is great. But then I did not like the ending. I thought it was childish, her destroying everything. It's like, this is stupid. It turns out who the killer actually was. I was like, it felt very convenient to me. I'm like, okay, I kind of figured that out from the beginning. I had this idea, like, why is this rich guy going to have this murder mystery thing go on, and throw a party? I was like, they were painting him from the beginning to kind of be the killer. So you kind of like, if you really pay attention. So I felt some of that was a bit lazy. And
the gotcha moment was just really, obvious. And it was, there's no fun,
But I still enjoyed it. I think it's worth watching. Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Dave Bautista being kind of dumb in the movie, because he gave an interview with Variety this week, and the headlines made it sound like he didn't appreciate being Drax, which is ridiculous, because if you read the interview, that's not what he said. He said he doesn't want Drax to be his only legacy, that he wants to be known as an actor, not just a wrestler. But he said you read the article, he says, I did appreciate what Marvel has given to me, and that it's turned my career around, and he appreciates Drax, and that he wants to play more serious and better characters. But then he plays kind of a dumb guy in Knives Out.
Yeah, he does.
So he was like, and he's played a lot of movies where he's been the brute guy already, and Riddick and a few other things. So unfortunately, his size and his stature, he's going to probably get roles like that. And it's up to him if he wants to take them or not. Yeah. I don't think he's any better than The Rock, maybe a little bit. I can see how Bautista actually can act some, but in the serious movies he's been in, like Spectre and Blade Runner 2049, his parts are so small that he hasn't really had a chance to really do much more. I think this movie with Rian Johnson's the most he's given him to do in Knives Out, and I do think that Bautista can be good and have a really good career. I mean, but let's be honest, him or The Rock, none of these guys are going to probably win Oscars,
Yeah, neither one.
Oh, excuse me for coughing today. But Knives Out was fun, man. I really like Craig in the role, and I know Netflix bought a 2-picture deal, so there's one more coming, at least, and Craig and then we're going to come back, and apparently they're going to start shooting fairly soon, as early as possibly this summer for release sometime in 24. So,
nice.
I think it's good films, man, and those are the 2 big movies I watched while we were on vacation. Well, not vacation, but off for a couple weeks from the show. And dude, have you downloaded the Tubi app, man? It's like the best free app possible.
Yeah.
There's
they got some cool movies streaming there.
Weird 80s anime. Like,
oh yeah,
this movie called Wicked City, man. Talk about friend of the show, Rob. Talk about tentacle porn. Like, there's tentacles all up in this girl, man. And if my nephew Ason's listening, don't repeat any of this stuff right now. But Wicked City is nothing but violence and titties. I mean, that's the whole movie. It's classic 80s anime. But it's a fun watch. It was kind of cool. It's about like these demon creatures that live within the city at night, and they come out and they have this peace agreement with the humans, and all of a sudden they're breaking the peace agreement. So this detective has to find out what's going on, and these demons like to get naked a lot and seduce people, and so my kind of entertainment. And,
it's like, we're going to tentacle you.
Yeah, and then I watched that, and I watched a show called Goku Midnight Eye about a detective, and it's weird as shit too, man. It's like it's 2 episodes. I guess it was done as a mini series or something in Japan, and I couldn't find much information on it. And man, there's like this naked stripper chick who's like part motorcycle, part girl, and
weird.
It's bizarre, man. And he's like, and he has like this. The Goku has this like mechanical eye and this super stick that he gets that helps him like hack into things, and it's just like whoever wrote this stuff in the 80s, man. This anime, they were drinking a lot of fucking sake or on drugs or something, because it's some bizarre, weird shit they come up with, man.
A lot of sake.
And it's like, but if you're interested, Tubi it's full of a lot of old school anime on there. I've noticed that, and a lot of great cartoons, man. I've been watching like old G.I. Joe and Transformers on there. It's a hell of a cool free app, man. I really like
the last movie I watched on there was The Rundown. I saw The Rundown was on there, and I said, man, I was like, I kind of want to watch that thing again, because I remember the opening scene where he's trying to be respectful, and he's like, I got to fight a bunch of NFL players, and it was fun watching him, and of course, I think I mentioned to you before last year. Arnold's at the beginning of that film, and he's basically like, he tells him good luck. Like he's, some people claim that he was trying to pass the torch at that point to The Rock as like the next, action hero.
Right. And I remember. Yeah, man. No, the app is cool, man. One thing I like about it for a free app, man, its ads load quickly. And it might have 4 ads, but they go by fast. I mean, it runs smoother than some of these paid apps. Like Paramount Plus is terrible with their ads. Like they run slow. They take forever to load. Hulu's not so bad. But Hulu, man, they used to not do ads in between the films. Now they do ads in the movies. The other day, I did rewatch Prey when I was off. And man, the first time I watched Prey when it premiered, there were no ads near it, only at the beginning. Now, like halfway through, I mean, I think it only stopped once for ads, but there were ads during it now. I'm like, when did Hulu start that shit? They used to do their movies ad free.
Now you have to buy premium Hulu.
It's like, no, I don't use Hulu enough to pay for premium. I mean, I only watch something like if it's like Prey or something I want to watch. Hell, the only reason I fucking have Hulu is because it's part of my Disney bundle. Otherwise I probably wouldn't even have it. It comes with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, and ESPN Plus is a joke. It's like, have you ever logged into it? You log into it and like you have ESPN, right? And you have ESPN Plus. But if the game is on ESPN, you can't watch on ESPN Plus because you can't watch it on ESPN if you don't have a TV provider. So what's the point in ESPN Plus? It's like, what a joke.
There is no point.
I think
I found that out the hard way.
I think I've been able to watch one game on ESPN Plus since I had it. But most of the time you can't even access the games. It's like, This is stupid. Now, if you're like a big hockey or soccer fan, I think it looks like ESPN Plus is the app for you because like all that stuff you can access. But I don't know. The streaming wars of the 21st century.
Yeah,
that's what it is. I mean, and but man, that's kind of what anything else you've been watching while we were off?
Yeah, I messaged you in case you wanted to take a peek at my Voodoo.
Oh yeah, I probably will watch that eventually.
Yeah, I watched Violent Night with David Arbor, and I feel like it's it was decent. I do think that I'll watch it again. It's not my favorite Christmas movie, but it's different. John Leguizamo is off his rocker in that movie. There's a lot of like nods to Home Alone. There's booby traps in there, so I really think that's cool in there. And a little girl who sets them, and of course Arbor is Santa Claus, and he is he beats the shit out of a bunch of guys. Uses a sledgehammer, grenades, guns, and Christmas magic. Yeah, whatever he can get his hands on. So it's fun to watch. It's the same director that directed. I believe he directed Deadpool 2. I want to say it. I thought it was the same director from Deadpool 2. I need to look it up. I could be wrong. I might be shooting from the hip there. But it's a director I've seen before. I've seen his films before. Maybe it's not Deadpool 2. But the action's solid. Solid action. I'm not getting lost in the scenes where they just, change a bunch of angles and can't tell what the heck happened. You just see a guy falling on the floor and you're like, I guess he got beat up.
Not Deadpool 2. This guy has directed the Dead Snow movies. Hansel and Gretel with Jeremy Renner is probably the most famous thing he's done.
What did I look up then? I don't know why I got that notion. Hansel and Gretel wasn't bad. It's okay. But it's got some character actors in there. But decent watch. I think it's fun. It's definitely not one you want to have the kids in the room for. I feel like just the language is just too much. And at parts, I'm like, do you really have to curse that much? It's, we can curse a little bit, but I feel like when you curse a lot, it may take away from the movie.
Does Tarantino movies offend you, Matt?
Oh, no. Tarantino is just like, because you expect it, in a Tarantino movie, and he's just a surgeon with it. He's very eloquent, and he puts it in the right spot. I feel like it's meant to be there, when Tarantino does it. But not every director's like Tarantino.
Right. No, I know what you mean.
Make that work. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But hey, whenever it goes on, whatever $3.99 rental or whatever like that, it's definitely a film one should check out and at least see a different type of Christmas movie, and one that's will fill your action appetite when watching it.
Yeah. No, I probably will watch it. I just hadn't had a chance to yet. And I've just been on a weird anime kick. The other anime I rewatched, one of Voodoo's $5 sales. Man, I grabbed the 4K version of Ghost in the Shell. Man, one of my favorite animes of all time.
Same
and I owned it on Blu-ray already, but I was like, what, for $5, man, I'm going to get the 4K. Man, that's a beautiful transfer. It looks so nice on the TV. Because the 25th anniversary Blu-ray still had some fading to it, and like it just looked a little rough, man. So I wanted the 4K transfer, and it looks really nice for a 1995 film, man. They did a good job with that. So I rewatched that, man. It's always one of my favorite animes of all time. I actually bought part 2 also. I haven't watched it yet because I've never seen the sequel, even though it's only sequel by name. I know Major, I think she only appears in it very briefly, if I remember right, in the sequel. So I'm going to try to watch that too. So I was like, I'm going to grab these while they're on sale.
Nice. Yeah, I took advantage of that sale too, man. I got that, and I got Buckaroo Banzai. I saw Buckaroo Banzai was like $5.99.
Yeah, I watched that one off too. But I always watch a lot of old stuff. I try to only talk about the newer stuff we watched.
Yeah.
I rewatched Buckaroo Banzai when I was off this week.
And then my Long would be proud. My son bought, or he was looking at Godzilla versus Kong, Jake, my oldest, and my youngest just kind of grabbed the controller and started pressing stuff, and ended up buying Godzilla versus Kong digitally. And I didn't realize I didn't have it. So I was just like, okay, well, we've got it now. Whatever.
But you can watch on HBO Max too, but I have a copy of it. Yeah.
But yeah, that and forget what else. But yeah, Voodoo, man, had a lot of $5 sales, $5.99. Ghost in the Shell was the coolest thing, I think, out of that. There wasn't a whole lot that I saw. There's some bundle deals, but I had already had that stuff already in my library.
Right.
Yeah, man, I think that's still going on too. So if you want to take a peek at Voodoo, they've got some deals going on.
Yeah, some good stuff, man. All right, man. So what's been happening in the world of pop culture since we've been out for a couple weeks? Well, the DC saga is still going on. James Gunn did say that that they plan to announce the first film in his DC universe and what it's going to be here within this month sometime. So news is coming of what the first film is going to be. There's a lot of rumors going that his universe may not include the big three, which is Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, which is strange because he said he was writing a young Superman film. So that's why I'm taking that as just a rumor, because even James Gunn, as much as he likes his quirky and his Suicide Squad type movies, he's not naive to think he can run a DC universe and not have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in it. Is he?
Yeah.
Like, you have to have the Holy Trinity.
You kind of
I would think to be successful. So we'll see what happens with this. And word is that he's also writing another TV series for HBO Max. That's going to happen. He also confirmed that the Green Lantern series is not dead, even though people have heard it was dead. That's still in the works. So I'm starting to wonder. And then the rumor is that they may bring Ezra Miller back for more Flash movies because the Flash is testing well. So I'm really starting to wonder if this announcement of the first movie as universe is the Flash movie and they're going to work around it. Because you can easily reboot things with a time travel element of the Flash.
Yeah.
So I'm really starting to get that vibe. Like, they're going to make, like, oh, guess what? Our first movie is the Flash. And they're going to build off of that. Because if you're Warner Brothers and you have the Flash and Aquaman coming out this year and Shazam, you want them to be successful. And you don't want them to just be throwaways for a pre-existing universe. So I have a feeling there's going to be some sort of workaround where those three characters still exists in this new DC universe. So we'll see how that all plays out. And on that note, we're just a few weeks away from our first full-blown Flash trailer. I know we had the DC Fandom teaser a couple of years ago, but Super Bowl Sunday on February 12th, we're going to get the first full trailer for the Flash. I'm pretty excited to see this, man. I'm trying to keep my hype up for it because I feel like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Like, man, it's hard to get excited for these movies if they don't mean anything, but I want to be excited about seeing Michael Keaton back in the Batman costume.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing.
And seeing a Flash movie, seeing Michael Shannon come back as Zod in this movie. I'm curious how it's all going to play out. And so I'm trying to keep my hype level up for it. And hopefully the Flash is good. Netflix, man, finally. Matt, did you watch Wednesday yet? Did you ever start watching it?
I have not, but Jackie has.
Man, she watched
good,
it, man.
I heard they canceled it. Did they cancel it?
No, they finally announced season 2 was coming. That was all rumors. There were rumors that Netflix wasn't sure, and that and Tim Burton, they were going to shop at the Amazon or somewhere else, but they finally came out this week and said, nope, we're doing season 2. So
there we go.
So that's good news for fans of that show. I really enjoyed it a lot. And I went into it with no expectations and walked. Well, I didn't walk away. I walked away from my living room, and really just. I mean, I blew through 8 episodes within 4 or 5 days, which is rare for me to do with a show. So I really enjoyed it. I think you would dig it, man. You'll like it.
It looks. I've seen clips, and I think I'd like it. I just need to find time to sit down and dedicate to it.
Yeah, Michael Giacchino, I may be saying his name wrong, who of course is best known for scoring films, and he directed the Werewolf by Night special and scored the Batman last year. He's going to make his feature film debut with a remake of a movie that we covered on this show. That is the classic radioactive ant thriller, Them.
Yes.
So they're going to do a big budget Them monster movie, and Michael Giacchino is going to direct it. Man, that's a genre that I think is ripe for a Hollywood comeback. Giant, like we just talked a little bit about Godzilla. I think giant monster movies should be a thing, man. I really do. I want to see more of them.
I think you can do more. You find movies that were made in like the 50s and the 60s, and they were in black and white. They didn't have a whole lot of technology at their hands, at their disposal to really make a film, pop like it should when you've got big monsters in there, and a call for high graphics. So making a movie, just rebooting a movie like that it makes sense.
Yeah, you can still play off the radioactive scares of the 1950s. You can still do things like that with today's environments of the world and things. And but man, I think that we're ripe for those kind of movies. I'm kind of excited. I don't know how Giacchino will do as a director. He's known for composing films. Werewolf by Night was fun, but we'll see, man. I mean, he's obviously got a lot of film experience, and I hope his Them turns out well. Did you watch the trailer for Renfield, this Nicolas Cage movie?
Yes,
where he plays Dracula.
What's funny is I watched that's probably the only new movie trailer that I watched, and it's odd looking to me.
It's odd. It's ridiculous.
Weird. Yeah,
it looks weird, but it's like I want to freaking watch it. It's like it's like Nicolas Cage. I mean, he's there's no secret that he's poked fun of himself the last few years, and having fun with it. He's at a comfortable place in his career that he can enjoy doing this stuff and what he's doing. And but this feels like he's kind of had a little comeback with massive talent last year with that movie, and this looks like another one in that right direction for a little comeback for him. And he's been circling the idea of appearing in Face Off 2 and things like that. So, but it just looks ridiculously fun. Nicholas Hoult plays, I guess, his understudy in this film, and he's just like he's all over the place with it. So we'll see. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out.
We're about 10 days or so from The Last of Us hitting HBO Max, and the producers or the showrunners who came out and said, they were upfront about this. Don't expect this to be more than 2, maybe 3 seasons. They're telling the story of the games. They're going to have definitive endings, and that's it. They said this is not going to be a Walking Dead thing that runs 10, 11 years, that they're here to tell a good story. And they said the first season covers pretty much all the first game. They said there's some elements, I guess, that might trickle into the second season. But I kind of like that. I like when shows are a little upfront and say, hey, we're going to tell the story. It's going to be 5 years. That's it. Sometimes these shows, because as a viewer, you can commit to it knowing, hey, I'm going to get 20 episodes of the show. It's going to tell a complete story, and I'm going to be hopefully satisfied when it's all said and done. I don't have to wait around or commit to something for 10 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no,
I'm super excited for that show, man. I can't wait.
It looks fun.
Yeah, I will be tuned in on January 15th watching The Last of Us.
Same here.
Disney, man, they are working on this feels like one of those things that should have already been done. But Disney's putting together a Stan Lee documentary. Stan would have been 100 back a few weeks ago if he had been still alive. And there's lots of information out there about Stan Lee. There's been some mini documentaries, things like that done about him. But Disney plans on doing the definitive Stan Lee documentary. And if you've watched any of the Disney docs that have showed up on Disney Plus in the last 2 years, most of them are fantastic. So I have no doubt that Disney will do a wonderful job with a really great Stan Lee documentary. No word on when it's going to come out, but it's in the works. And the last bit of news I have for us is this new Evil Dead movie called Evil Dead Rise is coming out, and it has a new trailer. And I guess some people were a little like, wait, what is this Evil Dead movie? Where's Ash? And is it a sequel to the remake that came out a few years ago? And apparently the answer to that is there is no Ash, and no, it's not a sequel. It's like its own thing, but takes place in the Evil Dead universe, is from what I'm understanding. And apparently there will be nods to possibly the existence of Ash's universe in this film. But because I remember reading a couple years ago, I thought they were doing a sequel to the remake. But now I'm reading that this isn't really a sequel. It's kind of its own deal. So
very interesting.
And, I know you're a big fan of that franchise.
Yeah. I remember going to Alamo Drafthouse and seeing the remake, and getting to see some of Sam Raimi's interviews, and they would literally go sleep. They'd sleep in like gymnasium floors on gymnasium school floors. And, they got lucky because there was one time that this one town they were going to go shoot in, this girl liked Bruce Campbell a lot. And so they kind of used Bruce Campbell to get access to her apartment. So they had a place to sleep for the night. And every film, avenue in America said, no, this is too violent. This is, Evil Dead's too out there, too much violence, too scary. And he goes to Switzerland, and man, the Swiss love it. It becomes a hit, and boom, he catches lightning in a bottle, and the rest is history. Now he's directing Marvel films again. So, and you can definitely tell what his style is. I love seeing that. The way he has the camera, sneak up on the cabin and zoom in on and creep up on the victim or, a certain thing and highlight it that way. I think it's his signature. And I love it. I love watching his film. So, excited for a new installment, and we'll see how this goes. Hopefully we have a groovy baby, thing in there. Give me some sugar.
Yeah, I know. I just wish they would have done the Army of Darkness sequel, but it looks like that's never going to happen.
Yeah, man. So. It's always too little too late, right?
Yeah. Because that is one movie in the franchise I do enjoy. That one I really like a lot. But, well. All right, man. It's almost featured film time. But, as we do every month, we're going to do it early this month, man. We always tell you what's happened this month in pop culture history. And Matt always brings us to the show, man. He does a good job with it. Matt, what have you got for us for the month of January?
Yeah. So January is such a slow month in film, but I was able to find some cool stuff. 93 in this month, 30 years ago, Robert Rodriguez's El Mariachi debuts at the Toronto Film Festival and became the lowest budget film that ever reached $1 million.
Yep.
So, and that's film
amazing.
Yeah, echoed here.
Amazing debut film. Have you ever actually seen it? The original?
I thought we reviewed it.
No, we did Desperado, the sequel. We've never done the original.
I remember starting to watch it. I don't ever think I finished it.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. I mean, it's definitely low budget. You can tell when the gun hits the ground, it's made of wood and things like that. But it's definitely worth watching. I mean, especially as a Robert Rodriguez fan, it's worth checking out and appreciating. And man, it's an incredible debut film considering how he made it. Sometimes I find his, at that time it was like Kevin Smith came out with Clerks and Richard Linklater was making independent films with like Dazed and Confused and things like that. And then and then you have Robert Rodriguez come out with El Mariachi, and his is probably the most impressive of all the debuts just because of the way he was able to pull off that film with very little money. And it's an action film. The difference in that and Clerks is basically a bunch of people standing around. Yeah, it's a cool independent film, but there's no special effects. There's nothing really that had to be done to make the film look good, where the things Robert Rodriguez had to do to pull off the action in El Mariachi are pretty amazing. So give it a watch, man.
Yeah, especially with low budget. But yeah, and in 1966, Batman starring Adam West as Batman, Burt Ward as Robin, and Cesar Romero as the Joker debuts on ABC. 1966, man. Yeah, well, I know we've touched base on that film.
Oh yeah, one of the best comic book iterations ever made still to this day. I mean, just classic all time. Grew up watching it. Maybe not as influential to me at my age as Batman the Animated Series was, but I still remember being a kid and that was my first version of seeing Batman, and I probably thought it was pretty dorky at the time, but funny. And I had no idea that a dark Batman would exist in the future. But the coolest thing about when you go back and watch reruns of that Batman show is like they're having a lot of fun making the show, and it comes out on every episode how much fun they were having. And maybe there was a lot of LSD and stuff involved. Who knows? It was the 1960s, but they had fun on screen.
They sure did. 1977, on this day, we don't talk a whole lot about Golden Globes, but this one's a film that I really like, Rocky, in 1977, won Golden Globes at the 34th Golden Globes.
Yeah, Rocky, man, that's one of the best sports movies ever made, man. I personally prefer the sequel, as we know, because I did it for my birthday movie a couple years ago. I just like something I like about the underdog bounce back story, but I really appreciate Rocky a lot, man. And just talk about another basically independent film, man. Stallone had to shop it. He had to convince people to let him make it, and he's really good in the movie. It's funny, people are talking about how good that Stallone is in the Tulsa King and say, oh man, I didn't know Sylvester Stallone can act. Man, yeah, Stallone has always been more than just a tough guy. He kind of sold himself to Hollywood and kind of became that action star, but the guy could act too, man, if he really put his chops to it. I mean, he can do it, and Rocky shows that.
And I got a wrestling one in here. 1991, Sergeant Slaughter defeats Ultimate Warrior to get to win the championship belt. So I always thought that cool whenever we can work in a wrestling fact for old Frank and Long, if Long is listening.
Yeah. They are the wrestling guys. Frank still believes it's all real.
He does. It's a fact. I also like to work in birthdays. It's always fun to work in birthdays. Haven't done it in a while. James Earl Jones, 91 years old. Keep 91. That man alive. Yeah, man.
Voice of Darth Vader.
Yes. Jim Carrey, he's 60. Really? Man, we're getting old, man. 60 years old.
Damn. Jim Carrey.
Costner, I know you're Yellowstone guy. Costner, 67 years old, man.
Oh man, not just Yellowstone, man. I'm always a big Kevin Costner fan, man. I love his movies. I mean,
Silverado, right? Yep. It's Silverado, man.
Open
Silverado.
Range,
yeah.
I mean, Field of Dreams. Just a guy I don't know. I always appreciate the stuff Costner did. He just feels like a good movie star on screen.
Yeah, he's always made good movies.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a cool fact. So in 1949, Shirley Temple was huge. Apparently she had issues, of course, having attempted kidnappings or, people harassing her, stuff like that. So I guess she befriended the FBI and in particularly J. Edgar Hoover. So in 1949, J. Edgar Hoover gave her a tear gas fountain pen. And I think that it's apparently it was in case she needed to make a quick escape. But wilders me is in 1950 they had like cool spy ass tech such as a tear gas fountain pen at that time. What kind of cool stuff do you think they have now?
It's like James Bond shit, man.
Yes, man. They were making James Bond shit in 1950. So I'm like, I wonder what kind of cool shit that they have now, man.
No
that
kidding,
stuff from
right?
John Wick is probably true. They probably have bulletproof suits and stuff like that.
The old underground world of assassins.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And last but certainly not least, ending on a somber note, on this month in 2008, we lost Heath Ledger. So
I saw that. That was his anniversary came up. I mean, but some great performances from him as the Joker in The Dark Knight, Lords of Dogtown.
Yep.
Going too soon, that's for sure.
That's for damn sure.
All right, man. Good stuff, Matt. Good stuff, man. All right, well, let's get into today's feature film, the moment that people have been waiting for. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they have. Maybe haven't. Yeah. This is a movie that I knew nothing about. I was my extent of anime in the early 2000s, late 90s was, like I mentioned, Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Appleseed, some things, the more popular stuff. I had not really become familiar yet with Miyazaki films. I kind of knew who he was, but I wasn't. I hadn't really seen any of them because they weren't real easily accessible. And Spirited Away was one of the first big of his films to get a major U.S. theatrical release because it did really well overseas. It was one of the first movies ever in Japan that made $200 million U.S. money in overseas. So they decided to give it a big American release, and Disney helped release it in theaters here. And so our former co-host Frank was like, "Hey man, you got to go see this movie with me." And I was like, "Man, that looks like a kid movie, man." I was like, "I don't want to go see it," but I went with him, and I walked out of the theater being very surprised about how good this movie is. In fact, it's a movie that I've revisited quite often over the years. I mean, I've seen this 10, 20 times since. Just it's an absolutely beautiful picture. And Matt, I'm gonna let you summarize this movie while I go check on a noise in the back of the house real quick.
Yeah, not a problem. So, we touch on Chihiro and her parents. They're moving to a small Japanese town in the countryside, and on the way to her new home, her dad makes a wrong turn. And it's a one-lane road, dead ends into a tunnel, and her parents stop the car and kind of look around the area. and they go through the tunnel, find an abandoned amusement park. On the other side, it's a little town, and they find a restaurant with no staff, and she refuses to eat and goes to explore the theme park a little bit more. Finds Haku, and tells her about talks to him a little bit and says her parents are in danger, gotta leave immediately. She runs back into the restaurant, and her parents have turned into pigs, and theme park turns out to be inhabited by demons and spirits and evil gods. And at the center of town, there's a bathhouse where the creatures go to relax, and that's where the really wacky stuff happens. And the owner, Yubaba, is intent on keeping all the trespassers, which she is. She's viewed as a trespasser, to keep her as a captive worker. So she's trying to save her parents, and has to return and get out of this crazy place. Is basically what it's about.
Mm. When was the first time you saw this?
I saw it. One time at band camp. We went on a band. We had this summer trip that we went to.
You didn't stick any flutes anywhere, did you?
No, we did not. But one of the girls was really into anime. More so than me. And she's like, "Hey, have you ever seen Spirited Away? It's great." And this is like in 06, 07, I think it was. And
a few years after it came out. Yeah.
A few years after it came out. And I was like, no, she's, oh my God, you gotta see this. And so I watched it, and I think this is the first Miyazaki film I saw, or at least, enjoyed.
Realized you saw.
Yeah, realized I saw. And it's really cool. I mean, the bathhouse scene, that demon, the black cloaked demon that comes in there is just nuts, and it was kind of freaky, but yet it was kind of like it's like an uplifting animation too. So very, very unique style. The clash of the story and the demon, and how the artistry is actually depicted and drawn and stuff. Very, very neat. But yeah, saw it just a few years after it came out. Wasn't too late to it, and thought it was really cool. Just definitely different from the anime you watch when you get home and you turn on Toonami and you watch Trigun, right. You watch Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, but it's just different. It's different story, different kind of arcs.
And Miyazaki has talked about his influences and how Disney has influenced him a lot, and his films have this sense of wonder to them, where they play out like, especially Spirited Away, they play out like a Disney movie, but with anime influences. Big-headed characters, dragons, otherworldly things going on. And the most interesting concept I find is he doesn't really script all his films. He storyboards his films. And he creates the stories as he goes along, which is amazing to think that he's able to come up with these incredible stories. I'm sure somewhere he's got to have a outline jotted down, because you can't just come up with this stuff, even though he may not have full scripts. And Spirited Away kind of came together like that. Started out as a series of drawings that he turned into this spectacular film that I think ranks among some of the best animated films of all time. And you were talking about how you mentioned there's stuff that goes on in this film that's pretty intense and pretty scary, but you never feel completely afraid for the characters in his films. And I think it's because he does such an amazing job of keeping that sense of wonder, discovery, and sense of heroism in his films that, he might give the good guys a little bit of danger, but you never feel like anything's going to terribly happen to him, because his worlds are so colorful. They're so bright. There are some dark moments in his movies. They're definitely a little darker than some Disney stuff. But yet ultimately he's telling children's stories, and he knows that as a filmmaker. So he never lets his darkness go so scary that it's going to frighten you away from the joy and wonder of the film. And Spirited Away definitely is heavy on that, with these dark moments, but then a lot of bright moments too. Yeah.
And it's kind of in a coming of age kind of thing. He's able to combine these myths, from his own culture. And he's kind of like almost like a ghost story, drawn influence from like ghost stories and stuff like that. And yet taking that and then, taking like some, a family story and, and a coming of age journey and making it sort of uplifting, but then, like you said, introducing that touch of danger and, being able to come full circle and have that happy ending where your main characters are intact and nothing happens to the little girl. And they're just barely able to escape danger. And you just, the way he builds his worlds, you just wonder, where he gets these inspirations from, like you were talking about. And I thought I read something that he was going to retire after he did Princess Mononoke, but then something like his daughter influenced him.
Friend's daughter
influenced him to do this story, and I thought that was cool because we would have never gotten this story.
No, it's definitely a coming of age film, and that's how I view Spirited Away. Is that you watch this through the eyes of Chihiro, and it's seeing this world through her eyes as everything unfolds, and it's almost a sense, is it all really happening at times, because you're watching through her eyes and what she sees as she, and the amazing thing about her is she's drawn into this world that's just, if you think about it, for a 10-year-old girl, this world is chaotic. There's spirits and dragons, and I'm getting put to work in a bathhouse. There's a guy with 6 arms, and there's suit balls that are like barking at me. But yet she never, she has this childlike wonder that she never takes it for granted. She's just like, oh, it is what it is. And it's amazing that the character, because as a child, she just accepts it, that this is what's going on. And she buys right into it because she knows that, Aku tells her, like, if you want to get your parents back, you have to do everything I tell you. And she's 10 years old. She's like, oh, okay, I'm going to do whatever you tell me. And she buys right into it. So it absolutely is her journey as she tries to save her parents. And it's an amazing journey to go on with her. It's fun. It's one of those movies that, as an adult viewer, you watch this and you're just, you're right. The stuff that Miyazaki comes up with is just, it seems so simple, but yet so complex. You're like, wow, that's just a brilliant idea. And this movie has brilliant idea after brilliant idea throughout it, whether it's the animation or the things he comes up with in this bathhouse, the different spirits, like the scene where she tries to bathe the mud demon and all that. I mean, it's just incredibly animated in the way it all plays out. And it's just so well done.
And this movie, I guess on Ask Me Anything, Nicolas Cage came out and said that this was like one of his favorite anime films of all time. And just praised Studio Ghibli. So we've been referencing Nick Cage all day. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That he's a big fan.
And this movie is highly credited. It was one of the first anime films that win the Academy Award for Best Animated Film, or first foreign animated film. Yeah. It's definitely credited for helping a new generation bring anime to the mainstream. Because at this point, there was some anime that had been in the mainstream. We talked about Ghost in the Shell, and people knew about Akira and the popularity of Dragon Ball and Pokemon at this point, television shows. But as far as other anime in theaters, Spirited Away was a big one. It had a wide release in the U.S. It did pretty well in theaters, getting nominated for awards. And it really opened up people to other Miyazaki films. I mean, Princess Mononoke saw a spike in sales and viewership after this. Yeah. It allowed for Ponyo to have a wide release just a few years later. And it opened up Disney to buying rights to more Studio Ghibli films and start releasing them on DVD and Blu-ray. And a lot of that is all credited to Spirited Away for having such a huge impact in getting his films out there to the world.
Yeah, and we're talking about his inspiration, and I guess he was cleansing a river, he was cleaning a river, and that was the inspiration of the cleansing of the river spirit, based on his incident where he was cleaning out a river, and he removed a bicycle from the river, among other things.
Oh, okay.
And so it's funny. I guess he just goes out and does things. And he's like, oh, you know what? That's a movie.
Well, and I think that's what a great creator does. I mean, he sees his world. I mean, George Lucas was influenced by watching old World War II films and Flash Gordon and stuff like that, and he took old World War II film news footage, and that's how he got the ideas for the X-wings and all that. Nice. And you think about it's what like the great creators do, man. They see the world around them and they create from it, and they come up with these amazing, brilliant ideas. And Miyazaki is right up there, top notch, as one of the greatest creators of our time. And strangely, there's still people that aren't familiar with his films. And if you're a film buff, you should be, man. I mean, it's only the second time we've covered one of his movies. We did Princess Mononoke and now this. But you should be familiar with his films, and you should watch it because they're not just animated films for kids. They can be for adults too. Every one of them has something spectacular in them, and something you're going to find that you're going to appreciate in your life, I think, as an adult or a child and as a film fan.
Yeah, no, and man, this film, I didn't realize how much money it made. A lot. The thing is, really, really fast, it hit like 200 million before it even hit the U.S. And I guess no other film had done that before this. I always like to talk about how much a film makes. It's not always indicative of its success, but on a film like this, it really is. Speaks to how popular it and how fast it gained popularity.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, it did very well. Like I said, I remember it had American theatrical release. That's where I saw it, and no, you're right, it did very well, and it continues to do well this day. I mean, it's on HBO Max. I mean, HBO Max has a right to a lot of the Studio Ghibli films, and it's shot in Studio Ghibli. It's not just the Miyazaki films. There's other films from that studio that are on there that are really well done. Grave of the Fireflies might be the best World War II film you'll ever watch. I mean, I'll warn you, get you a box of tissues when you watch it, but it's just an amazing film.
We've been talking about doing that film, and I haven't watched it yet.
It's hard to watch. I don't think it's actually on HBO Max. It was on there, but I think sometimes they rotate them, but an amazing film. I mean, it's quite often. We talked about Vudu earlier. It's quite often $5 on Vudu. Maybe one day you should grab it and give it a watch.
Definitely.
I'm a little behind. I still have not watched The Wind Rises, which was his last theatrical film that he did a few years ago. I need to watch that one. But I have seen My Neighbor Totoro, which I like a lot. Howl's Moving Castle is a great film. Ponyo is a wonderful film. Ponyo is probably his most accessible for younger kids to watch too, and just a neat movie. I have not seen Kiki's Delivery Service. I need to watch that one, but I've seen most of his films.
Yeah,
and but Spirited Away is amongst one of my favorite animated films of all time. I think it's an amazing movie. I enjoy. Like I said, this is a movie I revisit pretty often. I mean, it's been out for 20 years. I probably watched it 15 to 20 times. I mean, so it's definitely something I watch pretty often. It's a feel-good movie too. It's like you just want to put something on the background and watch and know you're going to enjoy it. I mean, you can put Spirited Away on and just kind of sit back and just, you don't have to be in the living room constantly while it's on, but you can come into it and like, where you're at. And it's just an amazing movie.
It's a movie that you may say other films have drawn inspiration from. Like I would say, maybe Coco. Maybe Coco drew inspiration. You have a main character, a child who's lost in a world that they're not familiar with, an alternate world. Coco's got skeletons all around him. She's got demons all around her. Mm. He's trying to get back to his family. She's trying to get back to hers and escape this world. Same for him, just for, different ways. But, we see that in a lot of films. We talked about, we talked about Bullet and Michael Mann films, great people, like Studio Ghibli. Sorry, I'm got some congestion or something in my throat.
Ball hair, sack hair.
Yeah, man. He's crazy. But yeah, Miyazaki, he's going to, he's going to be copied. He's going to get, inspire people. And I think some of these animated films gain inspiration from stuff like this.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Like, you could argue Brave could have been influenced by something like Princess Mononoke. And, but no, I would think that Disney is definitely influenced by his films, current Disney animators, as much as he was influenced by Disney films. And now he's given a few interviews the last few years. He He's not saying he's officially retired. There's a lot of rumor that he's working on one more film. We'll see. Because he is up there in age. I can imagine he wants to leave his legacy and enjoy retirement some. But so we'll see if he makes any more. And if he doesn't, man, I mean, he's between Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro and the films that he has done. I mean, he's one of our great filmmakers of all time. And the stuff his influences will go on for many, many years past this. I think one of the coolest things that I love about him is he's still doing traditional animation, which I think I appreciate the 3D stuff of today's world, with the Pixar films, but I really like hand-drawn animation a lot. I still do. And I think that's why I still enjoy like the DC animated movies that come out, because they're hand-drawn, and I like that style. And I hope it doesn't go away. And filmmakers like Miyazaki continue to keep it alive by doing hand-drawn animation. And I hope it stays around for a while.
Yeah, no, definitely. You can tell a difference.
Yeah, because then there's some movies. Oh, I forgot about this. I did watch Strange World, the new Disney movie. And this was a movie that when I saw the trailers, I was really looking forward to it. And it's kind of a dud. It just wasn't that good. It feels like they kind of mailed it in. The trailers, the movie is not even like the trailers. Like they sold it as like this nostalgic Flash Gordon style 1950s science fiction movie. It really didn't feel like that at all. Just kind of disappointing. So they could have used some Miyazaki influence in that movie, so to speak. I forgot that I did watch that, and the reason I think I forgot is because it just wasn't memorable. It was disappointing.
It bombed in theaters, and whenever something bombs as bad as it did,
which is rare for a Disney film. It doesn't happen very often. But Spirited Away is just incredible film. If I was to sit here and make a list of my favorite animated films of all time, this one's easily in my top 5. Possibly, not the Jungle Book's always going to be probably my favorite animated film of all time, but Spirited Away could be right there at number 2 easily. I mean, I love the original Jungle Book. It's one of my favorite films ever. But Spirited Away is right up there. Probably easily my favorite animated film of all time. I think it's such a great movie. Easily an A+. There's no doubt about that with this film.
Oh yeah, A+.
Yeah, just an all-time classic, and just a good movie, man. If you've never seen it, take the time. If you go to HBO Max, take a couple hours, sit down, and go on this journey with Chihiro and the world she visits in Spirited Away, and you'll be happy. You'll thank us later, because this is a movie that you should watch, and everyone should watch, because it's a really beautiful film, and it's a good one. And we've got a good movie next week too. That we're going to talk about here for a minute and preview. And it's a Spielberg film starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. And before I go on, did you see that they're going to do a new Bullet movie? And they're not calling it a remake; they're just calling it kind of a reboot. They're not going to remake the original film. It's going to be like a new Bullet story, and word is that they might go after Leo to play the role of Bullet. So we'll see.
That would be cool.
I can't remember who was attached to direct. I want to say it might be the director of John Wick. I could be wrong though. But yeah, so there's a Bullet remake is apparently in the works. But Steven Spielberg, man, he directs this movie. It's based on a semi-true story. And the reason I say semi-true is because when this movie came out, it said it was inspired by true events. But in the last 20 years since this film came out, a lot more has came out about Frank Abagnale and whether his adventures are real or not. We'll talk about that next week. But the movie is Catch Me If You Can.
Welcome to Miami Mutual Bank. How may I help you?
I'd like to cash this check here, and I'd like to take you out for a steak dinner.
Are you a real-life pilot?
I sure am, little lady.
The jump seat is open.
It's been a while since I've done this. Which one's the jump seat again?
Dr. Connors to the ER. Dr. Connors to the ER.
This is irrefutable evidence that the defendant is lying.
Special Agent Hanratty, FBI.
Hello, Carl.
You're gonna get caught. It's like Vegas. The house always wins.
Some nuts flying around the country posing as a pilot, calling the James Bond of the sky.
Hello, Pusher. This is by far the best date I have ever been on.
He's a kid. That's why he doesn't have a record.
30 milligrams of codeine every 4 hours. Do you concur?
I concur.
Dr. Harris,
Yes?
do you concur?
Concur with what, sir?
Ma'am, I'm sorry to have to tell you, your son is forging checks.
I have a payroll check here I'd like to cash.
I'm working part-time at the church now. Just tell me how much yours and I'll pay you back.
$1.3 million.
I'll be choosing 8 young ladies to be a part of Pan-Am's future stewardess program.
South America, Australia, Singapore. These are so perfect the bank doesn't even know the difference. What do you want?
To apologize.
You didn't call to apologize, did you? You have no one else to call. I'm looking for your son.
I would never give up my son. If you were a father, you'd know.
Stop chasing me.
I can't stop. It's my job.
You see these people staring at you? They keep peeking over their shoulders, wondering where you're going tonight. Where you going, Frank?
Don't tell me not to fly, I've simply got to. If someone takes a spill, it's me and not you. Don't bring around a cloud of terrain on my parade.
Sir, we're gonna let him get away.
No, Carl, you let him get away.
Nobody had a better rain on my Merry Christmas parade.
I'm getting close, huh? You will go to prison.
You're gonna have to catch me.
It's just a fun movie. It really is. It's a solid film with Leo and Tom Hanks playing the detective, based on the story of Frank Abagnale, who is believed to, or it's Abagnale. It's hard to say his last name. Abagnale, but he's believed to basically forge his life, whether it was his career as an airline pilot or airline steward and other things, and made lots of money off it over the years, ended up going to jail for it. And then in recent years and books he's written and other stories, it seems like maybe some of it wasn't as true as he said. But we'll talk about that next week. But the movie is a quite a delightful story about whether he did all these adventures or not. And I know it's a favorite of yours, Matt. I know you've mentioned us doing it on the show a few times, and so we're going to throw it in there in the next week and talk Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, man. Martin Sheen, got Christopher Walken, Tom Hanks. Some character actors, and it's going to be fun. You know, my mom worked in banking, and this guy changed the way they do things. She did tell me that.
And interesting is Tom Hanks almost wasn't in the movie. I can't remember who it was. It was someone else, and at the last minute, the other actor dropped out, and Spielberg called Tom, and basically Tom was like, okay, I'll do it. And he had like a week to prepare and got on set and made the movie.
Nice.
So, so we'll talk about that, but catch me if you can on next week's show. And thank you for listening as always, the rebelradiopodcast.com, of course, for all your Rebel Radio needs. And Happy New Year again to a safe and healthy and good 2023 for everybody. And we thank you for listening, and we hope you continue the journey with us on the show.
Yes.
And this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
And remember, as always, thanks for listening, and just go there and
do it.
Sam Jones, Flash Gordon, and this is Rebel Radio Podcast.